Good evening and welcome. As artificial intelligence increasingly permeates our creative landscapes, we find ourselves confronted with a profound ethical and ontological question. Is AI-generated art, in fact, art at all? Tonight, we delve into this very question, exploring the intersection of technology, tradition, and the creative spirit. With us are two distinguished guests who embody the opposing poles of this debate. Leo Vance, a celebrated digital artist and tech evangelist, champions AI as a new paradigm in artistic creation. And Clara Monet, a classically trained painter and esteemed gallery owner, stands as a staunch defender of traditional artistic provenance. I welcome you both. Let us begin with opening statements. Leo, if you would please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Evelyn. I contend that the apprehension surrounding AI and art is not only misguided but historically myopic. We are not witnessing the death of artistry. We are witnessing its evolution, its expansion. Every great technological leap forward in art has been met with this same trepidation. When the camera was invented in the 19th century, it was decried as a soulless, mechanical contraption, incapable of capturing the truth and beauty that a painter's hand could. Critics claimed it was merely a tool of reproduction, not creation. Yet, who today would seriously argue that photography is not a legitimate and powerful art form? AI is simply the next, most logical development in this long history of technological augmentation for artistic expression. What this technology represents is a profound democratization of the imagination. For every individual who possesses a vivid internal world but lacks the years of motor skill development required for painting or sculpting, AI provides a bridge. It allows them to translate their complex conceptual ideas into a visual medium. This isn't a devaluation of skill. It's the liberation of creativity from physical constraint. Furthermore, the role of the artist is not eliminated. It is redefined. The artistry in this new medium lies in the meticulous crafting of sophisticated prompts, in the iterative process of refinement and guidance, and in the curatorial eye required to select the most compelling output from a sea of possibilities. The AI artist is a visionary, a collaborator with an infinitely complex tool, a conductor of a digital orchestra. We are not merely pushing buttons. We are engaging in a sophisticated dialogue with the machine to bring our vision to life. Finally, AI is capable of generating aesthetics and conceptual juxtapositions that might lie beyond the predictable pathways of human ideation. It can help us break free from established styles and discover entirely new visual languages. It pushes the very boundaries of what we consider beautiful or meaningful, opening up frontiers for art that we are only just beginning to imagine. To dismiss this is to willfully turn our backs on the future.
Thank you, Leo. A compelling case for AI as an evolutionary tool. Clara, I now invite you to present your opening statement.
Thank you. Leo speaks of evolution, but I fear what he is truly describing is a form of dilution, a hollowing out of the very essence of what makes art so vital to the human experience. Art, in its most profound sense, is a communicative act. It is the deliberate transmission of an idea, an emotion, a piece of one's own lived experience, from the artist to the viewer. It is born of intent, of struggle, of a singular consciousness, grappling with the world, and expressing its unique perspective through a chosen medium. An AI, as a non-sentient algorithm, possesses none of these qualities. It has no lived experience, no consciousness, no emotions to convey. It cannot intend. Its creations, while visually complex, are ultimately sophisticated derivatives, a statistical amalgamation of the millions of images it was trained on. It is a mirror reflecting a library, not a window into a soul. This brings me to the foundational ethical crisis of AI art, the data. These models are trained on colossal datasets of existing artwork, the vast majority of which has been scraped from the internet without the knowledge, consent, or compensation of the original human artists. This is not influence, as some might claim. It is a form of high-tech, industrial-scale plagiarism. We are building this supposed future on the uncredited, unremunerated labor of a generation of creators, and to ignore that is an act of profound disrespect. Moreover, consider the impact on the artists themselves. The path of an artist is one of immense dedication. It involves years, often decades, of practice, sacrifice, and the relentless honing of a craft. How can an artist who spends a month on a single intricate painting compete in a marketplace flooded with thousands of visually pleasing yet soulless facsimiles generated in seconds? We risk creating an economic and cultural environment where the incentive to undertake that arduous, beautiful human journey of becoming an artist is extinguished. My fear is that in our rush to embrace this new efficiency, we will lose the very thing that makes art authentic. If we can no longer distinguish between a work born of human struggle and a work generated by a machine, we will have traded a piece of our collective soul for a clever illusion.
Thank you, Clara, for that impassioned defense of human-centric creation. The arguments are now on the table, and I'd like to move into a more direct exchange. Leah, let's begin with the point Clara so forcefully raised regarding the ethics of training data. Clara characterizes it as industrial-scale plagiarism. How do you, as an artist and a proponent of this technology, reconcile the creative potential of AI with a foundation built upon the uncredited work of countless human artists?
It's a critical question, and I don't dismiss the ethical complexities. However, the charge of plagiarism is an oversimplification of how these models learn. A human artist's journey begins by studying the masters. We go to museums, we pore over art books, we internalize the techniques, styles, and compositions of those who came before us. Our unique style is a synthesis of these countless influences, processed through our own perspective. And AI learns in a conceptually similar, albeit computationally different, and vastly more accelerated way. It learns the rules of visual language from its data. It doesn't copy-paste pixels. The solution isn't to ban the technology, it's to build ethical frameworks around it. This means advocating for and developing opt-in training datasets, creating robust compensation models for artists whose work is used, and ensuring transparency. The process itself isn't inherently theft. It's influence at an unprecedented scale, and we must manage it responsibly.
Clara, your response? Leo suggests that AI is learning like a human student, just on a massive scale.
The analogy is fundamentally flawed. A human student brings consciousness, interpretation, and intent to their learning. The AI brings a statistical algorithm. A human synthesizes influences into a new, personal expression. The AI performs a complex mathematical recombination based on patterns. More importantly, the issue of consent remains paramount. I, as an artist, choose to be influenced by Rembrandt. Rembrandt, being long past, cannot object. But a living artist today should have the absolute right to say, my work, my soul, is not a free resource for a corporate entity to digest and regurgitate. The learn versus copy argument conveniently sidesteps this core violation of creator rights.
Let me turn the question to you then, Clara. Leo drew a parallel to the camera. At the time, many painters felt their livelihood and the very definition of art were threatened. They made arguments about the soulless, mechanical nature of photography. In retrospect, that perspective seems short-sighted. How is the AI revolution fundamentally different from the photographic revolution? Are we not perhaps at a similar juncture, simply lacking the vocabulary to properly categorize this nascent art form?
The distinction is crucial, and it lies in the relationship to reality and human agency. A photographer, no matter how much equipment they use, is fundamentally a curator of the real world. Their art is in the selection, the framing of the shot, the choice of light, the decisive moment to capture a fleeting truth. The camera is a tool for seeing and interpreting the world that exists. The AI image generator does not see, it synthesizes. It draws not from the world, but from a database of images of the world. The human hand, the human eye, the human presence in a specific time and place remains central to photography in a way that is entirely absent from prompting a machine to generate an image from its statistical memory.
So it's about the source of the creation, external reality, versus an internal dataset?
Precisely. One is an act of witness, the other is an act of mimicry.
Let's push on this definition of the artist. Leo, you've located the new artistry in the crafting of the prompt, but what happens when the technology advances to a point where a simple, one-word prompt, sadness for example, can be interpreted by the AI to produce a stunningly complex and evocative masterpiece? Where is the human skill in that transaction?
That's a fair projection of the technology. But even in that scenario, the human role shifts from technician to director. The artistry would then lie in the selection, the curation, the ability to discern which of the 1,000 generated images of sadness is the most profound, the most resonant, the one that truly qualifies as art. It becomes less about crafting the input and more about the philosophical and aesthetic judgment of the output. The artist's taste and vision remain the guiding force.
And Clara, a question for you. If a piece of AI-generated art, regardless of its origin, evokes a powerful, genuine emotional response in a viewer, if it makes them feel seen, understood, or moved to tears, is that experience invalid simply because it was created by a non-sentient entity? Is the emotional impact of art not a primary measure of its worth?
The emotional response of the viewer is, of course, valid and real. But we must be careful not to conflate the effect of an image with the definition of art. A beautiful sunset can evoke a powerful emotional response, but we don't call the sunset a work of art. We call it a natural phenomenon. I would argue that these AI images are a kind of natural phenomenon of the digital world. They are aesthetically pleasing patterns generated by a system. Art is more than just a trigger for emotion. It is the container of the human story and intent behind that trigger. Knowing a human being felt this sadness and struggled to give it form is what creates the profound connection. Without that, it's just a beautiful, empty vessel.
We are nearing the end of our time, so I would like to move to closing statements. Leo, would you please provide yours?
Certainly. Throughout history, we have seen that every major artistic innovation was initially met with fear and skepticism before it was ultimately embraced as a legitimate tool for creation. AI is no different. It is a powerful, transformative collaborator that can augment our abilities and push our creativity into uncharted territory. We stand at the precipice of a new renaissance, one where the only barrier to creation is the limit of our own imagination. We should embrace this future, guide it with ethical consideration, and eagerly explore the incredible new worlds it will allow us to build and share.
Thank you, Leo. And Clara, your final thoughts?
Art is the indelible mark of the human spirit. It is our story told across millennia. Before we rush to celebrate this new technology, we must pause and consider what we stand to lose. The unresolved ethical dilemmas of data rights and the very real threat of devaluing human skill and passion cannot be ignored. For art is not merely about the final image on the wall. It is about the journey, the struggle, the story, and the soul embedded within the work by its human creator. Let us be cautious that we do not trade our precious creative birthright for a beautiful, but ultimately hollow, echo.
Thank you both, Leo Vance and Clara Monet, for a passionate and deeply insightful discussion. You have illuminated the central tension of our age, the breathtaking pace of technological innovation set against the timeless need to preserve our most cherished humanistic values. The tools are here, and they will only become more powerful. The question is no longer if we can, but how we should. The future of art is not yet written. It is being prompted into existence, and it is up to all of us to help shape its narrative.